Hello, everyone. The Authors Guild Foundation welcomes you for Amplify Your Story, How Writers Can Build Literary Visibility. Our guests today are Ananda Lima, Camille Adams, Samantha Page Rosen, and our moderator, Leslie Ann Murray. My name's Johnny. As always, thanks to our lovely audience for being here and for sending in your questions. We'll be addressing many of those throughout the conversation, and we'll leave time for Q&A at the end of the hour. For those new here, I'll just say a word about the Authors Guild and the Authors Guild Foundation. The Guild is a membership association. We've been around since 1912. We've got 17,000 members and counting, and we're known for helping our members with legal services, contract reviews, and things like that, and for our advocacy work with Congress, the publishers, Amazon. The foundation is our charitable arm that helps all writers in the US, regardless of whether you're a guild member or not, and advocates on behalf of everyone. So feel free to get our emails and follow along and join the guild when you need a contract reviewed or other professional support in your career. Now, I'm very excited about this event. It's part of our Business Boot Camps for Writers series, which is often about finding an agent, getting published, fundamentals like that. But I think promoting yourself and your work is now a business fundamental for authors. So I'm glad we're doing this. I'll introduce our guests before we begin. Dr. Camille U. Adams is a writer from Trinidad and Tobago, the author of How to Be Unmothered, a Trinidadian memoir, released in August 2025 from Restless Books. It made Electric Literature's Best of 2025 nonfiction list. Ananda Lima is the author of Craft, Stories I Wrote for the Devil from Tor Books in 2024, and Motherland from Black Lawrence Press in 2021, winner of the Hudson Prize. So a collection of stories, collection of poetry. Samantha Page Rosen, her writing on identity, culture, and the arts has appeared in the Washington Post, Harper's Bazaar, Slate, and elsewhere. She's the editor of the anthology Living Together, Reimagining Community in the Age of Disconnection, out this July from Beacon Press. Our moderator, Leslie Ann Murray, a fiction writer from Trinidad and Tobago and a citizen of East Flatbush, Brooklyn. She created Brown Girl Book Lover, a social media platform where she interviews diverse writers and reviews books that should be at the forefront of our imagination. Thank you, Leslie Ann. You've been published widely. You're working on your first collection. I'm so happy that publicist Katie Freeman introduced us and this wonderful group for this conversation. I'll let y'all get to it. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Johnny, and shout out to Katie. Um, I thank you, everyone, for joining us. A little bit about me. I created Brown Girl Book Lover about 7 years ago to review books, interview writers, and just like really put writers in the forefront. I realized that like when I was in my MFA days, like a lot of writers I loved, I wasn't seeing book reviews about them and interviews about them, and I just wanted to like really bring their work to the forefront. And I that's why I started. It was a love for writers, a love for book, and a love for bringing like writers who are just starting up, for bringing them up really and celebrating them. And so far, I've interviewed over 100 writers from many different countries, and some of the writers have gone on to like won like big time awards, and I didn't do it, which but I think just like championing their work, I think was really instrumental in helping that conversation. So I'm really happy to be here. Um, I'm gonna just quickly ask the writers, tell us about your book and what literary figure do you often converse with?
Um, I guess that's fine. So my book is Craft Stories I Wrote for the Devil, and it's a short story collection with a meta layer of the author, the writer of the stories in the book. Um, and it's very meta, and I think a writer that I converse with is Bulgakov of the Master Margarita, and a lot of Brazilian writers and a bunch of different ones. But that one is like one of the biggest ones for me. I'm also a poet, so I have a poetry collection on immigration and motherhood and citizenship. Um, but to this panel, these two books, they inhabit slightly different worlds, but intersecting, which is like the poetry world and the sort of literary fiction world, also a little bit of the horror community. So I will talk a little bit, about my experience in these worlds here today.
Thank you so much, Ananda. Next up, Camille.
Thanks, Lesley-Anne. So I'm the author of How to Be Unmothered, a Trinidadian memoir. And in this memoir, it follows me from 8 years old to 20 years old. And in it, I'm contending with what it means to have a bad mother, something that people have a lot of trouble talking about. I don't. And so it's written in verse, it's poetic prose, and it is considering generational trauma, like tracing legacies of abandonment and desertion through my maternal lineage, and considering what it means to come to terms with being unloved and being unmothered, and how do you foster that sense of mothering and love within yourself, and having the strength to stand apart from everyone else who is forming this sort of like complicit community. And it is written in consideration of Trinidadian songs, and so there's a lot of like rhythmic prose therein because I'm a poet as well. And they're sentient beings, so the trees and nature and flora and all of that is honored as well. And a writer that I find myself in conversation with quite a lot is Zora Neale Hurston. And that's because her memoir, and I've read a lot of memoirs because that's what my degree is in, but her memoir, Dust Tracks on a Road, it just has meant so much to me, especially the first part of it, where she's honoring her own intuition and the visions that she had that presaged what she would go through in her life. And I think it's really momentous. But also because so many people didn't realize the power of what she was doing while she was doing it. And so I think there's a lot of credence in recognizing your own work, even if people aren't really prepared in their own lives to contend with the material yet. So I think like her, she's very inspirational for me. Okay.
Thank you, Camille. And Sam.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sam Page Rosen. So my book is an anthology. There are lots and lots of people in here I find myself in conversation with. This book, Living Together, stems from me moving back in with my parents when I was 29. And I sort of did so, you know, kicking all the way. I didn't really want to. I felt shame about it. And I was really surprised by how much I loved the experience of living in this way that I didn't often see um, here in the US among, my friends and people around my age. And it really made me wonder, what are the other ways that people might be living that we either just hear about in sound bites, especially around the COVID times, with people doing more multi-generational living or communal living in different iterations. And then what kinds of ways are people living that maybe we don't even know about that are bringing them great happiness and joy, financial relief. What else? Like helping them mitigate the housing crisis, helping them be greener toward the planet and helping us waste less and all of that stuff. And so I set about finding people living in a variety of different communal living situations, which also snowballed into the third section of the book, which is simply what if you want to live a more communal life, even beyond housing? And to that end, I would say one writer who I find myself in conversation with, and everything she writes in her newsletter and anywhere, and certainly her novel, All This Could Be Different, is Sarah Thungam Matthews. Just genius person, but is really living the values that she speaks about when it comes to community. Another would be Raina Cohen, author of The Other Significant Others, who writes a lot about friendship and how we can put friendship at the center of our lives. And all those topics are certainly interesting to me. Community, friendship, mutual aid, all of that, and they appear in the book.
Thank you so much. I love that. I love this panel, even though I put it together, because we're all like just coming from different facets of the writing world, and then so we can provide a multitude of experience and ideas for the folks who are listening. So thank you all. Okay, so I'm gonna just go into the first question, and if you can talk about how did you leverage social media to amplify your book, and how has it helped you in being successful? Go for it, Camille.
So I am going to speak to social media, but I'm going to go a little bit before social media. And I think one of the ways that I've used social media is as a means of following up. But before that, one of the foundations that I created was community, like literary community. And I think a lot of that has to happen IRL, like you have to do that in person. And so I would definitely say, like, if I'm advising people, this is what I've done. And I didn't do it with this in mind. I just did it because I needed community while I was writing. And I wanted other people who understood where I was coming from and to have that sense of like love and support and nourishment while writing. But going to writing conferences and attending readings and making friends with people in that way, social media wasn't where I created a lot of relationships. It was where I maintained those relationships. And so it's a form of like checking in with people and like reaching out and seeing was happening in their world and like communicating, since, we won't just pick up the phone anymore because who does do that anymore, right? So it's like, oh, I see you're going to be here. I see you're going to be there. Let's meet up. Let's have dinner, whatever. And so social media was the means of like having that community, because you don't want to just go on like Instagram or Twitter or whatever and just be like, buy my book, right? You want to have like people who are genuinely supporting you. And so I think that that was one of the fundamental means by which like social media has served and continues to serve. So like, for example, I'd be at LA Festival of Books, and like so many people were like, oh, okay, we have to meet up when you come over to LA. And so I think that that's like something that you want to make sure that social media is a vehicle to real connections, not something that's just transactional and really reductive.
Yeah, I second that. I think having those connections in real life by going to readings, going to conferences, and using social media as a way to maintain those relationships. And that's how you build something that's really authentic and doesn't feel transactional, which is important because no one ever wants to feel used, right? So I think that's really important. Anyone wants to add?
Yeah, so I love that you both brought out, because I think when I was thinking about this panel, I have two big themes that were floating around that I'll come back to all the time, as well as specific things. But I think if you take anything big for me, is one, this sort of community. Um, as a real thing. So I feel like more than, don't like learn how to network, just learn how to enjoy people and appreciate them. And like not that being a means to an end, but actually enjoy people's readings and people's ideas. We're like an interesting bunch, Um, so I feel like what Camille said about, for me, social media is a way to connect with people I know. I mean, there's some people I don't know yet, but I'm sure I'm going to know them very soon. So I feel like there are people out there who are writers who also are social media people, and they know what to do, and they do this stuff, and they get like new people. And I think if you're that person, that's great for you and you should do that, But I realized pretty early that I do not know how, like when people said, oh, you have to do videos, I'm like, oh my gosh, I hate doing videos. I'm not gonna do that. And also I don't really, I have a hard time. I'm not a good person in social media, but I like posting pictures of my friends and stuff like that. So I do what I like there. And I do tell people where I'm gonna be. So that's one of the functions. I say, hey, I'm gonna be in this place. So I think there's two ways to be in social media. One is to actually be very good at social media and find new people and grow like your audience to hundreds and thousands of people. That's one thing that people can do. For me, that was never in the cards because it's not my ability. Um, but I feel like you can have a tiny following, but that following can be very helpful if it's the right people who are interested in what you're doing and if they're going to come and see. Another thing that happens a lot from social media for me is people invite me to things. So they see me in some panel about something and they're like, oh, actually, this thing sounds like something we want to do here. So a lot of these things where people just realize you're doing something and it sort of reminds them of something else they're doing, that to me happens a lot in social media. So it's very useful, but it's not like I have like giant stats or anything. It can be very small if it's right. Um, so same as Camille in terms of it's just a way to connect to people that actually know or meet elsewhere.
Authentic connections. Samantha, go for it.
Yeah, I'll add, I think you're both completely right. And I would say in terms of book publicity, I'm still in the trial and error stages of my social media journey. Um, like Ananda, my social media was always, my use was always like, I like posting pictures of me and my cats and my family and friends. And oh yeah, here's one thing I wrote. So I don't think I'm the greatest social media promoter. And honestly, it's like broken my heart a little bit lately to look at my feed of my own feed and I like see my book cover and my book cover and my book and I'm just like, oh, I'm tired of seeing my own book cover and this is bad. It doesn't even come out until July. So so I've been thinking for myself, how do you like also maintain your sanity in all of this? I gave up on TikTok pretty quickly. I was like, this isn't, I really do not believe that my videos of me talking in front of an article that someone else wrote about some topical intersection, despite the 17,000 likes, is like leading to book sales. I just don't believe it personally. Um, I was going somewhere with this though. Just that I think you're both totally right. I think that the most organic use of social media is to like keep up and further these conversations and appreciation of people you've met in real life. I think I have also used it because I like this was my first AWP. I'm kind of a homebody. I have used it to um, engage with like writers and hopefully peers I admire and have had genuine connections come out of that, who then, I have met them in real life. I've tried hard over the last couple of years to do that in my Philly community. Like, who are the writers I admire who, maybe I can meet online and then physically see. And then, like Ananda said, you start getting invited to things and I can't go to everything. I do what my capacity is, even if I would want to. But I think I agree that I take the route of social media where I just try to form the most genuine relationships that I can and hope that um, those are loyal and that's it. The other stuff feels gross to me personally. So I wish I could speak to that side of things.
I think one thing is that with social media, especially when you are an emerging writer, is that I think you have to lean into the trial and error. I think sometimes we're like,
Yeah.
that was cringy, but you have to lean into it because it really teaches you like where can you go, right? So if it's not that you don't have to post your book every time, but you can post books that you like, books that inspire you, right?
Mm.
For me, what I've done in like, not promoting my book, but promoting writers, like I have created a content calendar. And first, the
Mm.
content calendar was just based on like, what are we celebrating this month? Women History Month, all women writers. What are we celebrating? And then it became like much more like nuanced. And with that content calendar, I kind of observed like, what did I talk about last year? What I didn't talk about. And I have a full-time job. I have many jobs, right? So I
Mhm.
can't do it all the time. But if I do in a month, I'm like, this is what I want to focus on. 3 videos, 2 images, and do like partner pose. That's good for me. And sometimes that's all I have to do. Or if I have something like really interesting I want to say about a book and I feel really compelled, I'll put it on my content calendar. But using a content calendar to just guide the process really helps me to like amplify the writers that I want to amplify and like just amplify my voice as a critic and a lover of books and a writer. I would suggest like always thinking about like your content calendar, lean into the things that like you're like the trial and error because that gives you knowledge of like what you need to do.
Mhm.
And like forming really authentic connections and attending events. So if you see a writer that you like, or you attend that event and then meet them there and then comment on the post, I think that's like really like soft stakes engagement. And if you want folks to, and wait, sorry, one thing, okay, I'll pause for a second. I was just going to jump in, but I'm wondering, I'm just going, um, if you can provide like two practical steps about like posting on how you post on social media, or how did you get like people to interview you and review your books to just bring out more like knowledge and information about your book? Go for it, Samantha.
I can speak to this one because I'm in the middle of it right now. My approach, which like I didn't hear from anybody, but it's working so far. I am a great lover of those who interview and review
Mm.
people's books. Like I've been interviewing authors for a while, and I've paid attention to who those people are who are doing it. And
Mhm.
so as soon as I was able to, send copies of my book, I contacted the freelancers. Yeah, no, I mean for review and interview, and have just said like, based on what you've done so far, I think that you would be interested in the content of this book. I love your work, specifically this one, two or three things you did. Would you like to read it? And that's led to, I mean, I have no idea what's good or not, but I've secured like five or six
That's
reviews and interviews that I'm aware of, and my book comes out in July. But it's like it's because I asked. Like I identified the right freelancers or the right staff writers at the right places who would appreciate. Not everybody would care about this book, especially being an anthology, but I think I just went straight for the source, for the people who I knew would be speaking to me. And I'm sure it won't pan out in every case, but I think that I've never heard anyone say that. Like, I'm just going right to the people. So I think
Yes.
I would encourage that. It's worked out very well.
Thank you for bringing that to the forefront, because like now a lot of this is how a lot of writers um, contact me, right? There's some, I don't know all the writers that are happening. And if they contact me and I'm like, wow, this seems like something I would do, I would just like, yeah, like send me your book and let me interview you. So I think that's a smart way of doing it and making sure the person matches up, right? And then or Camille, would you like?
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. So because, I think a great thing that really helped me in my life is that I'm a poet, and poets do that all the time. Not everybody yet knows, but because poetry doesn't spread itself as they have less resources in the presses, which are amazing places. So I learned through poetry to do that.
Mm.
When my big five book came, I was like, no, I actually have to do some stuff. And I think what you mentioned of knowing what the people are and appreciating the ecosystem of the wonderful work that people do. Like I love Leslie Ann's stuff. It's so fun to watch. And like live your life enjoying those things and taking note. And plan. And I think one big thing for any of these things, both interview review or doing an event, is to really put yourself in people's shoes and think about their perspective of things. I imagine this person gets pitched a lot. Some stuff doesn't make sense. Some people are rude. All this stuff is happening to this person. So when I write to them, they are not necessarily like straight away know about me or like me or anything. So I try to think preemptively of like when I'm writing to be very, I don't know, humble and understanding and not pressury and demanding,
Yeah.
Just think of them as people who are doing this out of the goodness of their heart, really, because they love writing and stuff. And write to them as people and always be ready for things not to work out, which is it's normal. Everybody's busy. There's all stuff going on. But what I did is, you look at things there. Some places they actually tell you how to pitch. They say send to this address or whatever. Some things you just have to see that contact and in a respectful way contact them. So doing all of that. The other thing is from years of living in community and introverts. I have a note for introverts in a minute, but from years of going to readings and enjoying people and contacting them online or something, you end up uh, just knowing people who end up doing this kind of work. So a lot of people maybe here are familiar with the pre-order email, that people go like, oh my gosh, I wrote my book. Here's my pre-order. When I wrote that email, I wasn't thinking of pre-orders. I was thinking of reviews and interviews. So I kind of used the format and said, if anybody wants to interview or review, please be in touch. I wrote to my alumni, Leslie, and sorry, maybe that I wrote to my alumni from my MFA, but it doesn't have to be from your MFA. It can be wherever you have had contact with people, a very respectful email saying, if anybody wants to interview or review, please let me know. And sort of shoot wide, but always not expecting people will have to take you up on it. Mm-hmm.
Also want to add that for me, when I first started off, reviewing books, interviewing writers, I knew a small community of writers, but I was like, okay, I've interviewed my friends now. I still need to go on. The show must go on. And what I did is that I came up with a really good press release. I said, this is who I am. This is what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. I would love to interview you in March. Can you get back to me? These are the interviews I've done. And like, I just used that pitch and I update it every year to get more and more and more writers to interview. And sometimes I don't hear back from writers. There was a writer that like I send a pitch, I didn't hear back from them. But then last year around this time, I'm at the library and I was like, that's Lisa Ko. That's Lisa Ko. I want to interview her. And I just was like, are you Lisa Ko? And, I introduced myself. I talked and I was like, you know what? I would love to interview you about your book. In a week, I heard back. And then a month later, I was able to interview her. So I'm like, usually people are very surprised when I say that. I'm usually very introverted, right? And sometimes it takes me a long time for the language to come out. But I think because I'm so passionate about this and I really believe in I really believe in writers being able to amplify their voice, and I want to be part of that. Like, I go out of myself and say, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and I need you to join the bandwagon. And yeah, it has doing this work as well, like with social media and amplifying writers' voices, have made me so much more a confident speaker, and really just confident in what I'm doing. Camille, would you like to add to it, or should I jump onto another question?
I agree with a lot of what's been said, all of it. So I'll just add like a little bit quickly. I would say, and sort of to take a different angle, that because yes, these are fantastic strategies that I've employed as well. And I would say even before that, amplify other people's voices too. Be a really good literary citizen. And I mean, now we don't have Twitter anymore, but that was a really great platform to like, and I did a lot of posting of other people's writings in literary journals that were particularly moving and that I found that were in conversation with what I was writing about. And so then you have this inbuilt like support system because you've been giving support. And I think that's absolutely necessary. You want to make sure that you're amplifying in that way. One other thing that I'll add, because I know that in the interest of time, when you're reaching out to people, you do want to have your press release, and if you're asking for something, you also want to be really genuine, right? There have been people that I've just reached out to, and I didn't know them, but I admire their work so much, and I really wanted them to speak to me because I thought it would be wonderful, and it did go wonderfully. And I really just poured my heart into the email, and I was just very honest, like, you've written this book about like, and Nadia Wusu is one of those, like she did my book launch and I'd never met her before, but I was just like, I read your memoir when I was doing my PhD, and I think your subject matter speaks so much to me, but also I think like it was really inspiring for me. Thank you for telling your story. And it was just really honest. So I would say absolutely be authentic, be bold, be brave, but also in striving for that amplification of your voice, make sure that you're doing the same for others as well, that you're not just asking, but that you're giving. So it's, a relationship, it's in tandem that you're working with people.
Absolutely. And I just want to add the power of a thank you note. Right. I'm always send thank you notes, especially at the top of the year. Usually I just said, thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. A power of a thank you note will get you more invites. People will talk about that, people talk about you in spaces that you don't know they're talking about because you're able to just send a thank you note. And it's not like, I think we used to think those things as soft skills. Those are hard skills because people don't say thank you anymore. And like just the power of letting someone know how appreciative you are is so important in amplifying your work. I'm just going to jump into some questions that were asked previously. Someone asked, for your book, did you hire a publicist or spend money out of pocket? Did you do any of the labor yourself, like submitting essays or pitching interviews? Anyone wants to take that on? Go for it, Samantha.
Um, I'm as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing all the labor myself, which has been driving me a little bit crazy. But I know that my in-house team is doing stuff, and they're doing stuff that I'm not even like Winter Institute. They're doing a lot with booksellers, and I don't even have the resources to do that. Um, I am pitching every excerpt off the book essay. Um, Finding locations and doing all the stuff for my events, doing the social media. I'm doing everything. It's a lot for sure. Um, there was another part of that question I wanted to. However, I've talked to a bunch of people about, hiring freelance publicists, and I know that, price wise, it really runs the gamut, but even the cheapest is not that cheap. Um, I think it can be incredibly valuable. One thing I decided to do because, I just didn't get a very big advance for an anthology, so I didn't know if this was the book for it. I have been meeting with a freelance publicist like 3 hours a month to do, and I don't know if everyone, sometimes it's just a package rate and that's what it is. But I decided that helping me refine my essay pitches was like the best use of that for me, and that I knew my in-house team was doing their thing. I can do my thing. I didn't need help with every part of the process, but I knew that my pitches would be better if I had a sounding board, which of course, like you can ask a friend, but I was like, let me pay someone, if they're willing for a couple hours a month. It's not going to break my bank, but it will be the sounding board that I need. And then also, like, if I need any contacts, I'm sure that they would share. So that's how I approached that. So far, I do not regret it. But I think you could also do that with a friend as well.
I really like that idea and the opportunity to have like publicists a la carte, right? Because sometimes you don't want to break your bank just for publicity, but if someone can like just tune into something that's really important and that can help you like really expand your presence. Anyone else would like to share?
Yeah, so I also have a similar experience as Sam in that I did like a limited public, especially for the poetry collection. I would say the publicist thing is for me a little similar to the paid MFA for people who pay for the MFA. It depends on your opportunity costs, right? So if you're super busy and you have like tons of money, it makes total sense, because you're not going to be able, you're like, I don't know, you have your big job, you're not going to quit your job and like do this stuff, right? But I think mainly, um, you don't need a publicist to get this stuff out. It helps and they have contacts. There are some avenues over there. There's not many, but for example, the people that helped me in this more limited fashion, they had some funds within the Sokaya publicity. They had funds for marginalized people where they would uh, pay as you want kind of thing. Poets and writers has this thing that selects a number of people who help them with publicity in the way that Sam said, teaching them things that they can do. So I had a limited and it helped, but it was very good also for learning what to do next time. And one thing that I learned is that there's a lot of things you can do yourself. And then there's a couple of places that they want to hear from publicists, right? Like these big places, I don't know, like New York Times or something. Often, I don't know if it's always, often if you just write yourself, they like don't pay attention. So what I learned from that is if your press has very limited resources, which is the case often with small presses or even your big press sometimes, I was very choosy about what I asked the publicist. Something I could not do myself, that's what I would ask the publicist. And I asked very respectfully because it's like, you know your job, but I'm like, hey, this is something I really wanted to do, but they won't listen to me. Would you do this one? And I do all the other places that I can do myself. So sort of really selecting and saving what the publicist will do. Either hire a publicist or the person from your press. Let's say you're in a very small press or a press where your publicist is busy. Especially for a small press, actually, I would make everything ready and ask them, can you send this? Because if it comes from my email, people go, oh, this is just, but if it comes from your email, it's going to be well received. So being very choosy about that person, whether it's hired or somebody else, if you have the time, that's kind of what I learned from the experience.
Yeah. And I just want to add something. I think I love independent presses and small presses and like magazines, and don't sleep on them because they are always looking for like interesting books, writers to celebrate and to amplify. And so like I would even when I started interviewing, I would just send them pitches of saying, "Hey, I have an Annalise." I think that's how I got your work published. I was like, "Hey, I have this great book, a great interview you should check out." And they were like, "Okay, right." So don't. I pitch to small presses. I love them. They really champion writers' work, and I think when you start with small press, it goes larger and larger and larger, and your work kind of like is organically disseminated. I feel like. Camille, would you like to share?
I'll just add, I think that was all really well said as again. What I would say is that having attended, because I'm sort of like a researcher, so I'm like, I do not have my degrees in English, y'all. I teach. That's my full time. I do not have money to like
Mhm.
go and pay a publicist. But what I also realized attending like AWP conferences and speaking to other people, and like this is where networking comes in really importantly, speaking especially to like other Black women in publishing and other like immigrants and all of that who are striving to publish, realizing that even those who have publicists had to end up doing quite a lot of work for themselves, right? Like people have shown me spreadsheets where they're like, this is what I did, this is what the publicist did. And often it's a lot more what you've done. And so then I realized, oh, you're going to actually have to be the person who's doing it. But I did get some really good advice, like at Brooklyn Caribbean Lit Fest, where people like speaking to other authors, and they were very careful to say, do as much as you can maintain.
Mm.
And so you want to make sure that you're doing something that is sustainable for you. You're doing something that is particularly targeted to your work and that is doable in terms of like your own skill set. I am someone who likes to be public facing. I'm an introvert, but I also like to be very like yummy, in the front and doing all the talking. That's my thing. And also for a memoir, because it's something so personal and it's something that like people it resonates with people and it connects with them, especially given the topic, I want to make sure that I am presenting it, right? And so I think that for me, like I know that I aim toward a lot of like speaking engagements, festivals and like doing readings and all of that. And I think that's important. So that's where I focus, that's where my team focuses as well. Although there's the written element as well. But making sure that when I am thinking about where to target, one, I know that I'm doing it myself because I'm like, when I come home, I always say, like, this is my third shift. So I'm investigating where do I want to place this work or what do I want to enter? What's the residence? But also, I want to caution people to realize that it's like, it takes a while. So I think a lot of people are thinking publicists are like, okay, so you're going to get something that's going to be an immediate turnover. You have to realize that a lot of this is going to take, publishing is slow. And so you're seeing people grinding here, and you will see the results in a year. Like the book, it takes one, especially for nonfiction, it takes a while. And Jen Jackson was telling me that yesterday. It takes a while for it to find its complete audience, but also it's sort of like releasing a music album, right? Like it takes a while. So be prepared for the long haul. Take your time, make sure that what you're doing, that you're replenishing your energy, and decide where you're placing that focus. Because publicist or no publicist, big five or small press, you are going to have to do the bulk of the work, right? We are in a literacy crisis. People are not giving money to publishing unless you are like, I don't know, like one of the biggest names, right? Who, like, you could write a memoir about killing your lover and you get in millions for your movie deal. Yes, I'm throwing shade. Give me a minute to throw shade. But the rest of us who don't have that, who didn't drug their lover or whatever, you are going to be having to be doing this on a spreadsheet. So figure out your means of doing this, right? And make sure that it's something you can maintain regularly. That would be my advice.
I love that so much. I just
Okay.
wanted to add, like, just
We all
go.
want to add.
I love that. Yeah. So one thing that I think it's very true. For me, what I can sustain is what I enjoy. So right. I love talking to people. I love making something happen. I love doing events, which is not the best thing you can do, but I love doing them. One thing. And I wanted to return to the introvert extrovert thing. I have friends who are introverts who review quietly. They don't like being the center of the room, but everybody is so excited about their book and their thing because they've been doing this criticism. And so you should choose, you're not going to be good at everything and able to do everything. So for me, a big one is essay writing. I cannot write an essay. I cry when I have to write an essay. I'm gonna write essays about this one day because I have such a hard time with the essay, and that is such a big part of publicity, right? So if you are very introverted and you write essays, you're in a great position compared to me because I can't write essays. So an essay is the type of thing where you can pitch to big places and be picked up. If the topic is right, you don't have to be super famous to be in a very big place. But I realized early on, look, that's great for the people who write essays, but life is short. I don't want to suffer, So I'm like, what do I like doing? And that I can keep doing. So that's going to be different for each person. But just because you're like, I don't want to do this extroverted stuff, you can do some other stuff that I can't do. Yeah.
Can I
So
build
I
on
know we
that?
have to
Oh,
move
sorry.
on. Let me say
Oh, no.
one thing to Nanda really quickly. I was thinking the same thing because I love writing, but because I write like poetic prose, my essay writing takes so long. And then I feel like, okay, I'm doing all of these essays, and I'm like, wait, hold up, I'm going to be doing all of that, disseminating this everywhere. And I actually just want to put this in a book. So let us remember as well that sometimes, like, it is a process. You're building a career, right? So you might be doing publicity for one book, but like the second book going to give publicity to the first book too, right? So it's like when I started doing all the essays, I was like, Camille, there's a book. So this is what I do now. Like this is my quiet time, right? Where it's like I'm extroverted in this way. And the writing, you don't have to be a content creator. You are a writer. So figure out where you're placing the writing. Yes, girl.
Can I just say
Go for it.
a couple things that I feel like they're going to answer?
Yeah.
This conversation is going to answer more questions, I'm sure. First thing I wanted to say is that I think it's really important to also, nobody knows what sells books. And I think that speaks to both Ananda and Camille's different points, related points about like, do what you can sustain. But I think, yeah, nobody's who says that like this essay that is going in the Cut or the New York Times is even going to sell your book. And I think to that end, this connects to like the small press thing as well, not just small presses, but just figure out who is going to connect with your book. What are the messages that are coming out of your book and who needs to hear them? I know this is going to answer other questions. How do the things in your book relate to what's going on in the world today, whether it's fiction or nonfiction or poetry or anything in between? And then, it's very possible that the readers of a small press or a local paper are going to, or oh my gosh, a a newsletter that's on the topic. Like my book, one thing I'm doing that I have a very good feeling about this is, okay, who is interested in my book about communal living and community building? People who are interested in how to be less lonely, people who are invested in the concept of friendship, people who have been affected by or interested in the housing crisis, et cetera, et cetera. So what am I doing? I'm looking up topical newsletters about the loneliness epidemic, housing, communal living, friendship, and all those people I've emailed for those newsletters have been incredibly responsive. And the hope by me is that their readers who are subscribed to these newsletters because they're about specific topics of interest will be more interested in and perhaps even get more out of my book than like anyone from the New York Times who's reading my potential op-ed, you know? So I think it's really important to think about nobody knows what sells books, but like who needs your book and where do those people go? And then just one note on the publicity thing. I think that one other thing to think about is you may not need a think about what you would need out of the publicity. Maybe like for me, I'm like, I just need like an executive assistant for like 1 hour a week. You know, I think there are things that maybe in these conversations don't get mentioned. And it's like freelance publicist, freelance publicist. We love freelance publicists. But if you have, you know, I have a 17, 19 tab Google Doc, and what I need is time. You know, what I need is hands. So whether it's an executive assistant or like, this is a very communal thing, but like having an admin party where you're like, could you please 5 friends of mine come over for 1.5 hours and help me with these emails? I will feed you. That might be what you need if you have the contacts and the ideas, but just simply not the bandwidth. But also what Ananda said about sustaining what you enjoy and not overdoing it, like I may be. Okay.
Oh my God. There's so much gems here. I just want to make sure I list it out. Having an admin party. I like that idea of having an admin party where friends come over and they help support you. I like this idea of doing the deep research, the niche research for folks who would be interested in newsletters. I really like idea doing research. I think that's very important. Large research and small research to figure out who would like need your book. I like when Camille talk about you're a writer, not a content creator. That's really important. I also feel like I've seen a lot of writers like going into like being a content creator, and that's okay. But if you really want to just sell your book and stay true to you selling your book and promoting your writing and talking about books and writing ideas, you can do that without being a content creator, right? But it's just like making sure you're true to yourself, making sure you're building those connections, making sure you're doing the necessary research. And I think one thing I have to say is like, you have to become systematic AF. Like when I started Brown Girl Book Lover, you know, I just realized, a lot of people are sending me emails. I like, you know, I am currently reading 4 books, writing 2 interviews, writing 1 book reviews. And how do I do that? I just need to create like a great management way to do that. So I'm very systematic. I have my to-do list, my morning to-do list, my evening to-do list, and that's how I get it done. And like, so I think that's really important. I think it's 10 minutes now. I want to like, we can start opening up for questions, but before we open it up for the larger questions, maybe if everyone can just say one thing, like what is the best advice you have for a writer who doesn't use social media? So maybe like 2 words and then we'll open it up. 2 adjectives.
For who doesn't use social media?
Yeah.
Engage with the people out of social media. And that doesn't have to be a conference or anything. It could be a local situation. You can go to a reading, you can go to a bookstore. If there isn't one and you're up to it, do your own reading, you know, engage elsewhere if you don't like social media.
Thank you.
I would say pride yourself because the rest of us are striving to purge from it. And social media is mental colonization. And I mean that seriously and literally. I would say become part of a community in a bookstore. Like if you're in like Brooklyn, like Books of Magic are like they have new reading groups and like Central Fiction have reading groups as well. And like they have readings. So become part of like the community as in terms of literature, like reading and writing. So you could attend classes there as well. Just do it in community. So then you have people around you. And let me tell you, that's where we return in it because social media is too much. Like I have a little brick and nobody pay me. They should sponsor me, but I have a brick and it works wonders. You have to get offline. So you're already doing something right. And if you do decide to do social media, do it like Leslie Ann said, like systematic AF, like come on in the evening, spend your 10 minutes, do your connections, and go back and write because you have a life. You have to concern yourself with your mind and not being toxified. So that's what I would say.
This might be a bit of repeat. I love what both of you said. Speaking to the part about connecting to who your readers might be, I say, do your research, find who needs your book, and get it to them off of social media, whether that is book clubs, being, speaking in small publications, going to physical events and being involved in panels and things like that. But really figure out who needs it because those are going to be the people who will actually read it.
Yeah, and I just want to shout out the power of book clubs. They really amplify writers. There's this writer that I remember her book published, not a lot of people are talking about it, but I remember on social media in these Facebook groups, people are just talking about it and keep on sharing it and keep on sharing it. And like over 2 years, I've seen this book grow from like two or three people talking about it to like everyone. And I think they reissued the book and now the writer is bigger and badder now, right? Just the power of words and these social groups that they meet online or they meet in person. So that's really, really important. And I think all this, the through line here is about creating community and building connection to continue to amplify your voices. We're going to like now just open the room up for questions.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. You're all getting thanks from the audience, just so you know. I want to say real quick, there are a lot of different answers. The answer is it depends to so many questions in book world. So I think for some people, like who don't want to use social media, their answer looks very different. Like they mean, how do I do Amazon ads and MailChimp to like sell books? And so I just want to say there's always answers. Feel free to get in touch with the Authors Guild. I can help. Our members forum has 17,000 people you can crowdsource from. So those are great things to go off in different directions. Many of the things vary on genre and other factors. Okay, now I want to know on social media, going back to that from the beginning, are any of you especially active on a platform besides Instagram or Substack? Like, are any of you into LinkedIn or Blue Sky? Blue
Um,
Sky.
Funny enough, I'm on LinkedIn and I only went on LinkedIn because my friend was like, "Why aren't you on LinkedIn?" And I didn't know that was something I needed to do. And I have a lot of like just native followers from LinkedIn that I don't even know if they're connected to my Instagram followers, right? So I see like my platform raising higher and higher in LinkedIn, and I don't post as much as I post on like Instagram, but the LinkedIn crowd, they like really get it and they're always like liking, they're always commenting. And I try to make my posts like, because these two are different species. Instagram is one species where you can be like, booty pic, and LinkedIn is different. So I try to make sure that it's more like it would be something that the LinkedIn folks would like to consume.
I was just gonna
Mhm.
say that I'm on Blue Sky and LinkedIn, and I'll pop on every so often, but and TikTok, I guess. But I'm not, Instagram is the only one that I will like willingly go on. Blue Sky is lovely. It just didn't take like yet fully take off for me. So I don't think it's bad to have accounts, but I can't say that I can keep up with all of the different ones.
Yeah, same
Mhm.
here. And I do find that the once a year I went to LinkedIn or whatever, it was different people, which was really good. I just want to say very quickly, because of the way we talked about, like, if you are on these other places and you're very good at TikTok, good for you. Don't be ashamed. Go for it. That's awesome. And it was more because I just go, okay, life is short. I can't do this, But if you're good at it and you enjoy it, like, please do it. Just because it doesn't work for everybody doesn't mean that it won't work for you.
I loved Twitter and I am still mourning that fascist takeover because I like just being able to like go on there. And I think the one that imitates it most is Threads. And so when I post on Instagram, I have it post on Facebook and Threads one time, which is fantastic because Facebook is more like sort of more my community, more writers, more, and most people from Twitter came over to Instagram. But the thing with Instagram, it takes so much longer because you have to get a picture, you have to do the whole thing, right? And it's more aesthetics, which is lovely and that's great. But sometimes you just want to throw out something as a writer. And so I think Threads is really great for that. Blue Sky, it never really completely took off for me. And TikTok, listen, if we get an admin assistance, then we need to get like videographers as well because you could follow me and vlog me but I don't have time to do the filming and the cutting and the I have papers to grade and work to write and books to promote. So I think do again what works for you, but if you do like Instagram and you do like a cross posting, that helps you, and so you're just really sort of like diligent about get it here and that's it. Yeah.
All right. Sorry. So the content calendar was something that people wanted a little clarity on. So what's included for someone who uses one a lot? Social media, blog posts, Substack, it's anything like that that you're writing? Just mapping it out?
Yeah, so for my content calendar, I do it like a week before like the month hit, and I think about like what do I want to focus on. So for this is March is Women's History Month, so I'm featuring two writers, right? So I'll focus on these two writers, and I think about their books, and I'll pull quotes from their books, right? And then I'll think about like writers that like influence these writers or influence me, and I'll talk about that, or I'll talk about a niche book by a woman writer. I'm just thinking about what is needed, right? And also I'm thinking about what is needed like for my audience, let's say. And I'm thinking about what are people not talking about. I really love to like highlight books that like it's not on the margins, it's on the margins, and I want to bring it to the forefront. So I think about what book or what writer I can highlight this time. And every month I produce one or two newsletters depending on the month. Like in April, I'm interviewing a lot of poets, so it would be two newsletters. So then I think about what is going to be in my newsletters. So I'm just like I reflect on the trends, of course, and I don't want to be part of the trends because I can never keep up. So, but I'm like maybe I can be tangentially part of the trends, and I reflect on what I've done, and then I think about what is on the margin. I'm always thinking when I'm doing this work, what is on the margins in terms of writing and what can I bring to the center?
I would,
Great.
And I
okay.
I
just want
love
to
that
highlight.
so much because it's like you have a thesis. You're like, this is what I've come to do. I'm coming to focus on margins. And I think for any content that you're not creation, but any content, sort of like you have to have something that you're focusing on. So it's not just this disparate, like throwing everything at the wall, although there is a trial and error. But I love that yours is like, I am thinking about marginalized or peripheralized work. I think that it speaks to what Samantha was saying, like who needs your work? And you can do that even in social media. Like I tend to focus on, like I am very sociologically inclined, as you probably was able to tell, right? And so I tend to focus on that. And I think it's finding the things again like talking to a friend that is very authentic. Share what you want to share, show things from your life. I love nature, show that too, you know what I mean? So it's like you know what you're talking about, not striving to speak to what you think people want to hear from you. What are you genuinely interested in? Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
I just want to mention like so in my content calendar. I have like authors intros, authors interview, book life, partner post, audience call out, um like month focus, and then so I have these things as tent holes, or I have birthday focus, giveaways, and then this is how I move systematically through it. And for a while I was sticking to that, and then I was just like, oh, let me change it up. Like for 2 years straight I was like giving authors shout outs, and then I'm like, oh, I can't maintain that anymore because like my I'm now interviewing a lot, so then that becomes part of it. But I started off really small and then it grew because my goal, like, I don't need 50,000 million followers, right? I just need people who are interested in this work. I just need to celebrate writers, amplify their voices. And I don't need like 10,000 to do that, right? As the Bible say, I don't know. I'm just joking. What are two are gathered? Everyone will celebrate something like that. I don't know.
I just wanted to add something that I have not yet done, but in case it helps anyone. Leslie Ann's content calendar is extremely impressive. I have ADHD and like I'm pretty good organizationally for one with ADHD, but I still have ADHD and it's a lot. In terms of promoting your book, um, I came up with this just list of that I intended to put in a content calendar of like different ways I could explain my book, different kinds of posts, the way that I see people, posting about their book and connecting it to different um, things, different audiences or topics. And I had this idea that I was like, could I share this with the debut cohort where like all the 2026 debuts I know could contribute how to talk about your book types of posts. And so obviously everybody's books are different, but I just wonder if there's a way where like we don't have to, it's not what Leslie Ann is talking about. You're talking about like very specific content, but I feel like if you're just trying to find different entry points into your book, is there like a shared debut content calendar for debuts each cycle that people can then apply to the topics and audiences and identities within their books? And that's something I meant to start and didn't get to because I have
Oh my God,
ADHD.
you have to do that. You have to do it. I'll be part of
Okay.
the admin party when you're doing
If
it.
if anyone can help with the admin party, it can happen.
That's a great idea, Sam.
Well, thank you all so much. I want to say I will email everyone who attended links to our marketing and publicity resources, anything else that's relevant. Links to our wonderful panelists. They want to find you on socials and find your books. I'll include those. Also, we also have a webinar this coming Monday on specifically publicity without social media, book promotion without social media. And that'll be more about like branding and like segmented email campaigns, some of that nitty gritty stuff with Andrea Guevara, who's a branding expert for authors. That said, this has been great. I think, at AWP, I was there as well, and I noticed that way more panels than usual were about branding, book promotion, launch plans. And this is just absolutely part of the regular conversation for us all now. So if you're still feeling lost and overwhelmed, I hope you know that you are, surrounded by other authors dealing with it. So whether it's your local community or something online, that's why it's so important. Anyways, that's enough from me. But thanks, Leslie Ann, Samantha,
This
Ananda,
was
and
so
Thank
Camille.
you all. This
awesome.
was
Thank you,
so fun.
everybody.
Thank
This
you,
was
everyone.
Thank you for having
amazing.
us.
Thank you all.
I
Thank you,
loved
Johnny.
it.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you, Nan.